Fallout isn't just a story about bombs, mutants, and survival. It's a world full of secrets that refuse to be explained. Hidden in abandoned vaults, abandoned buildings, and radioactive ruins are whispers of horrors, conspiracies, and phenomena that defy logic. From ghostly apparitions to eldritch horrors lurking beneath the wasteland, Fallout's mysteries are some of the most intriguing and unsettling elements of the series. Today, we're diving into some of the strangest, creepiest, and most confounding secrets the wasteland has to offer. These are the Fallout mysteries that make you question what really survived the Great War, and whether we'll ever understand them. Let's get started. The Fallout universe is filled with monsters, mutants, machines, men who became worse than either. But the most unsettling threat in Fallout is one we barely understand and barely see. They don't live in vaults. They didn't rise from radiation. And unlike every other faction in the wasteland, they were already here. At first glance, the Zetans feel like a gag. Little green men, flying saucers. A Fallout reference to old sci-fi pulp and B-movies. You find a crashed saucer, a strange blaster, a skeleton that clearly didn't come from Earth. It's easy to laugh it off. But Fallout doesn't put this many details into jokes, and the deeper you look, the more the Zetans stop being funny and start being terrifying. Zetan technology appears decades before the Great War. Alien blasters are found in pre-war military testing facilities. Governments were already aware of them, already experimenting. This means two things. One, humanity didn't discover the Zetans after the war. The Zetans were already watching us. And two, they didn't arrive because the bombs fell. They were present while the world was still intact. Then Fallout 3 does something drastic. It stops hinting, and it shows us the truth. The Zetan mothership is not a scouting vessel. It's not a research ship. It's a weapon platform. A massive orbital craft capable of annihilating Earth cities with the push of a button. And here's the most disturbing part. They've been abducting humans for centuries. A samurai, a cowboy, a pre-war soldier, a little girl. Pulled from different eras, kept alive, studied. Not randomly, systematically. The Zetans don't just kidnap scientists or soldiers. They take specific types of people. Warriors, survivors, leaders, people shaped by conflict. Which raises a question Fallout never answers directly. Are the Zetans studying humanity, or how humans wage war? Because the Zetans aren't confused by us. They're preparing. Fallout never confirms who launched the first nuke, and that silence is intentional. Here's what we do know. The Zetans possess mind control technology. They can manipulate memories. They can infiltrate pre-war military sites. They benefit enormously from post-war chaos. A nuclear apocalypse turns Earth into a fractured, irradiated mess. Perfect for observation. Perfect for harvesting technology. Perfect for studying the aftermath of extinction. The question isn't, did they start the war? The question is, why wouldn't they? If the Zetans wanted Earth destroyed, they could have done it themselves. Instead, they let us do it. Which suggests something far more unsettling. The Great War wasn't the end goal. It was phase one. Humanity survives, adapts, mutates, and the Zetans keep watching. Every crashed saucer, every alien blaster, every unexplained abduction, proof they never left. The Enclave can be defeated, the Institute can fall, Caesar can die, but the Zetans? They operate above the map. They don't care who controls the wasteland, only how we behave while fighting over it. And the scariest part? They don't need to invade. They already won the moment we destroyed ourselves. Fallout is a series about consequences, and the Zetans represent the ultimate one, that humanity wasn't alone, wasn't special, and wasn't in control. We weren't the masters of our own destruction. We were just another experiment, and experiments can always be repeated. So the next time you find an alien blaster buried in the dirt, remember, it's not a relic, it's evidence. Fallout is a world obsessed with the future. Its stories revolve around advanced technology, nuclear power, and humanity's attempt to rebuild using the remnants of a dead civilization. But hidden beneath the ruins of Boston is a secret that doesn't come from the future at all. It comes from the ancient past, and it wears the face of the Cabot family. When we meet the Cabbots in Fallout 4, something immediately feels wrong. Jack Cabot and his sister Emogene appear middle-aged, unchanged by time, while their father Lorenzo Cabot should have died centuries ago. Instead, the family has lived for over 400 years. They are not preserved by cryogenics, radiation, or Vault-Tec technology. Their longevity comes from something far older and far more dangerous. In 1894, Lorenzo Cabot led an expedition into the Rub al-Khali Desert. There, he did not uncover a simple ruin, but an entire buried city, cyclopean, pre-human, and utterly alien. At its center, he found a crown, an artifact not created by any known civilization, and certainly not by humanity. When Lorenzo placed the crown upon his head, he did not perish. Instead, he changed. The artifact granted Lorenzo immortality and heightened mental capacity, but at a terrible cost. His mind fractured under the weight of what he had been exposed to. He became paranoid, violent, and unrestrained. Yet this corruption feels less like madness and more like amplification. The crown does not implant evil. It removes the limits that normally hold it back. This raises a disturbing possibility, that the artifact is not malfunctioning at all, but functioning exactly as it was meant to. Jack Cabot eventually synthesized a serum derived from Lorenzo's altered blood. This serum grants temporary regeneration, heightened reflexes, and near superhuman vitality. It is not technology and not mutation, but something closer to bottled divinity. However, the serum only functions as long as Lorenzo remains alive. Whatever the artifact did to him is not a completed process. It is ongoing, as if something is still working through him. Lorenzo describes the buried city as older than recorded history, built by beings who worshipped forces beyond human comprehension. This description quietly links the Cabot family to Fallout's other ancient horrors, the Dunwitch building, Dunwich borers, and the god Ugg-Qualtoth. These locations all share the same themes: ancient sites, disembodied voices, and pre-human entities that exist outside conventional science. The Cabot artifact does not resemble alien technology so much as it resembles something eldritch. Jack insists that Lorenzo was imprisoned to protect the world, but Lorenzo's own words complicate that narrative. He does not sound like a monster. He sounds like a priest, a man who has seen truths humanity was never meant to uncover. If Lorenzo is insane, then it is strange how neatly his worldview aligns with the rest of Fallout's cosmic horror elements. It becomes possible that Jack did not imprison a madman, but a witness, someone who knew too much. The player is ultimately forced to choose Lorenzo's fate. Killing him ends the serum, the immortality, and the Cabot legacy forever. Freeing him unleashes something the player can never fully understand. Neither choice offers closure. If Lorenzo dies, so does the knowledge he carried. If he lives, whatever ancient power touched him centuries ago is free to act again. Fallout never shows the long-term consequences, because cosmic horror does not provide neat endings. The Cabot family story quietly reframes the entire Fallout universe. The nuclear apocalypse did not create horror, it merely exposed it. Humanity was never standing at the height of civilization, but atop the ruins of something far older, something patient and cyclical. These forces do not care about factions, ideology, or survival. They wait. Ultimately, the Cabot family proves that Fallout is not just post-apocalyptic science fiction. It is cosmic horror disguised as retrofuturism. Long after the bombs fall and civilizations rise and collapse, some crowns remain buried, waiting for someone foolish or curious enough to wear them. Fallout presents itself as a story about nuclear war and human ambition. Its monsters are often framed as consequences of radiation, technology, or failed experiments. But scattered throughout the series is a far older terror, one that predates the bombs, predates modern civilization, and may even predate humanity itself. This horror has no clear face, no single name, and no need to explain itself. It lingers in forgotten buildings, buried quarries, and whispered hallucinations. This is the Dunwitch horror, and it represents Fallout's darkest secret. The first encounter comes in Fallout 3 with the Dunwitch building, a decaying corporate office in downtown DC. At first, it appears no different from any other ruin in the Capital Wasteland. But as the player descends deeper into the structure, reality begins to fracture. Whispers echo through empty hallways. Sudden visions appear, moments from the past bleeding into the present. Ferals attack not as random enemies, but as if driven by something unseen. The building feels less like a location and more like a living organism, watching and waiting. At the bottom of the Dunwich building, the player witnesses a ritualistic murder that occurred long before the Great War. This vision is not a recording or a holotape. It is a direct intrusion of the past into the present. The implication is chilling. Whatever resides beneath the building is not bound by time, and the nuclear apocalypse did nothing to disrupt its influence. The bombs did not awaken the horror, they merely exposed it. Fallout 4 expands this idea through Dunwich Borers, a stone quarry in the Commonwealth. As with the Dunwich building, the descent is gradual and unsettling. Raiders speak of visions and voices that drove them mad. The deeper the player travels, the stronger the hallucinations become. Pre-war scenes replay themselves, showing workers consumed by paranoia and violence, culminating in a ritual sacrifice. The quarry was not simply excavating stone, it was uncovering something that should have remained buried. At the heart of Dunwich Borers lies an altar and a submerged chamber, where a legendary weapon rests as an offering. This is not a reward for bravery, it is evidence of worship. The location was not corrupted by radiation or greed, but by reverence for something ancient. The structure of the site suggests organized belief, not random madness. Someone, or something, was being honored, long before the world ended. These locations are connected by more than atmosphere. Both are tied to the name Dunwich, a clear reference to H.P. Lovecraft's cosmic horror, where humanity is insignificant and unknowable forces lurk just beyond perception. Fallout adapts this idea not as parody, but as a foundational truth. The Dunwich horrors are not aliens, not experiments, and not hallucinations caused by radiation. They are pre-human entities whose existence contradicts everything humanity believes about its place in the universe. The name Ugg-Qualtoth emerges as one possible identity behind these events. Mentioned in Fallout 3 and expanded upon in Fallout 76, Ugg-Qualtoth is described as a dark god demanding sacrifice and obedience. Its influence warps minds, inspires violence, and erases individuality. The fact that multiple, geographically distant sites reference similar rituals suggests that this is not a localized phenomenon. It is part of a wider, ancient belief system that survived the apocalypse intact. What makes the Dunwich horror truly unsettling is how little it interacts with Fallout's main conflicts. It does not care about the Enclave, the Brotherhood, or the Institute. It does not react to the Great War. While humanity destroys itself through technology and ideology, the Dunwich entities remain untouched. They do not need to conquer the world because, in a sense, they already own it. Civilization rises and falls above them, irrelevant and temporary. The visions experienced by the player are not explained away by science or psychology. Fallout, a series that often demystifies its own monsters, refuses to do so here. The Dunwich horror is allowed to remain unknowable. This is a deliberate choice. Cosmic horror relies not on answers, but on the absence of them. Understanding would diminish the fear, and Fallout understands that some things should never be understood. In the end, the Dunwich horrors reveal a deeper truth about the Fallout universe. Nuclear war was not the ultimate catastrophe. It was a distraction. Humanity did not unleash the greatest evil in 2077. It merely stripped away the layers hiding what was already there. Beneath the ruins, beneath the radiation, beneath history itself, something ancient still waits. And it has all the time in the world. Fallout is a series built on the physical aftermath of destruction. Crumbling cities, rusted machines, and irradiated landscapes tell the story of how the world ended. But not all of Fallout's remnants are physical. Scattered across the wasteland are encounters that cannot be explained by radiation, technology, or mutation. Voices with no bodies, figures that vanish when approached, places that feel inhabited by something that no longer lives. These are the ghosts of Fallout, and their existence suggests that the apocalypse did not erase the past, it trapped it. One of the earliest examples appears in Fallout 2, in the form of Anna Winslow, a young girl haunting the den. Unlike other strange encounters in the game, Anna is not played for humor or ambiguity. She speaks plainly, knows she is dead, and asks only for justice. There is no scientific explanation offered, no attempt to reframe her as a hallucination or trick. The game treats her as exactly what she claims to be, a ghost. From the beginning, Fallout establishes that death is not always an ending. Later titles continue this quiet acceptance of the supernatural. In Fallout 3, the player encounters repeated references to spectral figures, haunted locations, and unexplained sounds. The Dunwitch building is filled with whispers and temporal visions, but it is not alone. The wasteland itself seems to remember violence, replaying it through echoes and apparitions. These experiences are not triggered by chems or radiation exposure. They occur regardless of the player's condition. Fallout does not insist on disbelief. It simply presents the haunting and moves on. Fallout New Vegas introduces the marked men of the Divide, figures who blur the line between living and dead. These soldiers are burned, broken, and seemingly sustained by pure hatred. While not traditional ghosts, they behave like lingering spirits bound to a place of trauma. Their existence raises an important theme. In Fallout, unresolved violence can trap more than just memories. It can trap people. In Fallout 4, the idea of ghosts becomes more personal. Locations like the Grantchester Mystery Mansion play with the aesthetics of haunting, but others take the concept seriously. At Parsons State Insane Asylum, echoes of suffering linger in environmental storytelling rather than dialogue. The Commonwealth is filled with houses where skeletons remain exactly where people died, suggesting not just death, but permanence. These are spaces where time stopped, and something of the people who lived there never left. Fallout 76 expands the idea further by presenting a world almost entirely devoid of living human NPCs at launch. Instead, players are guided by holotapes, recordings, and automated messages. The result is a setting that feels haunted not by spirits, but by absence. Voices speak from the past, replaying their final moments endlessly. While not literal ghosts, these recordings function in the same way, fragments of consciousness unable to move on. What makes the ghosts of Fallout unique is that the series never feels the need to explain them. Unlike its science fiction elements, which are often grounded in fictional technology or exaggerated science, ghosts are simply allowed to exist. They are not framed as mysteries to be solved, but as facts of the world. This quiet acceptance suggests that Fallout's universe is not purely material. There are things that survive nuclear fire untouched. The presence of ghosts also reinforces Fallout's central theme, that war leaves scars deeper than the physical. Radiation reshapes the land, but trauma reshapes reality itself. In a world defined by mass death, it would be stranger if nothing lingered. Ghosts become a natural consequence of a civilization that ended suddenly and violently, leaving no time for closure. Ultimately, the ghosts of Fallout are not there to frighten the player. They are there to remind us that the apocalypse was not clean or final. The dead were not laid to rest, they were abandoned. And in Fallout, abandonment has consequences. Long after the bombs fell and the world moved on, something stayed behind, watching, waiting, and remembering. The Great War of 2077 lasted less than 2 hours, yet it destroyed the world. Nuclear weapons crossed the sky, nations vanished, and civilization collapsed almost instantly. Every Fallout game is built on the consequences of that moment, but the cause itself remains deliberately unresolved. Fallout never gives the player a definitive answer to who fired the first nuclear weapon. This silence is not an oversight. It is one of the series' most important narrative choices. The most obvious suspect is China, locked in a brutal resource war with the United States over the last remaining oil reserves. By 2077, American forces had pushed deep into Chinese territory, and the conflict had reached a breaking point. Pre-war propaganda, military terminals, and government rhetoric all suggest that China had both motive and capability. From this perspective, the Great War appears to be a desperate final act by a losing power, choosing mutual destruction over defeat. Yet Fallout also provides strong evidence implicating the United States. The American government of Fallout is not a defensive democracy, but a paranoid authoritarian state. It annexed Canada, conducted unethical human experiments, and planned for nuclear war as a matter of policy. The existence of automated defense systems, hair-trigger alert protocols, and preemptive strike doctrines raises the possibility that the United States launched first, either intentionally or in response to faulty intelligence. In a world ruled by fear, even a false alarm could have been enough. Vault-Tec presents an even darker possibility. The corporation designed the Vault system not primarily to save lives, but to conduct experiments on isolated populations. Many of these experiments would have been meaningless without a full nuclear apocalypse. Internal documents imply that Vault-Tec had advanced knowledge of the war and actively prepared for it, raising the question of whether they merely anticipated the end or helped ensure it. Fallout never confirms that Vault-Tec fired the first missile, but it strongly suggests that they were willing to profit from annihilation. Some theories point to automation itself. Fallout's world was increasingly governed by machines, early artificial intelligence systems controlling infrastructure, defense networks, and targeting protocols. In several games, players encounter systems designed to retaliate automatically in the event of an attack. If such systems existed on a global scale, the Great War may not have been started by any human decision at all. A misinterpreted signal, a malfunction, or a feedback loop could have escalated into total nuclear exchange within minutes. Then there is the possibility of outside influence. Fallout repeatedly hints at extraterrestrial observers through the Zetans, an alien race that abducted humans and monitored Earth for centuries. Their technology includes mind control and advanced weaponry, and they are shown to benefit from humanity's collapse. While the games never state that the Zetans caused the Great War, their presence introduces the unsettling idea that humanity may not have been the sole actor in its own destruction. What unites all of these theories is not proof, but plausibility. Fallout constructs a world where every major power was capable of ending civilization and willing to risk it. The Great War does not require a single villain. It emerges naturally from a system built on escalation, secrecy, and dehumanization. In that sense, the war was not started by one nation or entity, but by a culture that treated annihilation as a strategic option. The most telling detail is how quickly the war unfolded. Reports indicate that the entire exchange lasted under 2 hours, leaving no time for diplomacy, clarification, or reversal. This speed suggests that once the first missile launched, whoever fired it, the rest were inevitable. The systems in place were designed not to prevent war, but to ensure it could never be stopped. Fallout's refusal to name a culprit is its most honest statement. Assigning blame would offer closure, and closure would undermine the series' central message. The Great War was not an accident, nor was it the work of a single mad actor. It was the logical conclusion of a world obsessed with control, power, and survival at any cost. In the end, the question of who started the Great War may be less important than why it was possible at all. Fallout suggests that when civilizations build their future on fear and weapons, the end does not need a mastermind. It only needs a moment. Across the Fallout series, entire civilizations rise and fall, factions wage wars, and the world itself reshapes under nuclear fire. Protagonists change, locations shift, and even history fractures depending on the player's choices. Yet through all of this instability, one figure remains unchanged. He appears without warning, acts without explanation, and vanishes before questions can be asked. He is known only as the mysterious stranger, and his continued presence may be Fallout's most persistent anomaly. The stranger first appears as a gameplay perk, a trench-coated man who materializes during combat, fires a single decisive shot, and disappears. At first glance, he seems like a stylish mechanic, a nod to noir tropes and pulp fiction. But as Fallout progresses, the stranger becomes something more than a visual flourish. He appears across decades, across regions, and across entirely different protagonists, always looking the same, always behaving the same way. Time does not seem to affect him. In Fallout New Vegas, the mystery deepens when the player encounters a young boy known as the Lonesome Drifter. He carries a battered revolver and speaks of a father who disappeared under strange circumstances. With the right dialogue choices, it becomes clear that this man was almost certainly the mysterious stranger. This moment reframes the stranger not as a supernatural abstraction, but as something that intersects with normal human life. He had a family, he made choices, and then he vanished from the world. Yet this explanation only complicates the mystery. If the stranger was once human, how does he continue to appear decades later without aging? How does he appear in multiple places at once, responding precisely when a protagonist is in danger? His appearances are not random. They are triggered by moments of violence, as if he is drawn to conflict itself. Some interpret the stranger as a manifestation of fate or death. He never speaks, never lingers, and never intervenes unless a life is about to be taken. His role resembles that of a psychopomp, guiding souls by ensuring certain outcomes. In this reading, the stranger is not saving the player, but correcting the flow of events. He ensures that specific deaths occur and then moves on. Others view him as a time traveler or interdimensional constant, a figure who exists outside linear time. This would explain his identical appearance across centuries and his awareness of moments where intervention will have maximum impact. Fallout's universe already includes time anomalies, premonitions, and entities unconstrained by conventional physics. The stranger could be another expression of this fractured reality. There is also a more grounded interpretation. The stranger may be a highly skilled individual or group using advanced stealth technology to observe and intervene in key moments. The noir aesthetic becomes camouflage, and the silence becomes discipline. However, this explanation struggles to account for his impossible timing, his sudden appearances, and his complete absence of aging or recorded history. What makes the mysterious stranger compelling is that Fallout never commits to any explanation. He is acknowledged just enough to confirm his reality, but never enough to define it. Like the Dunwitch horrors or the ghosts of the wasteland, the stranger exists in the space between science fiction and myth. He is treated not as a problem to solve, but as a constant to accept. In a world shaped by randomness and player choice, the mysterious stranger represents something fixed. He does not choose sides. He does not comment on morality. He appears, fires, and leaves. In doing so, he suggests that some forces in Fallout are not influenced by human decisions. They operate according to rules we are never allowed to see. Ultimately, the mysterious stranger embodies Fallout's quiet unease. Even in a universe defined by freedom and consequence, there may be unseen hands guiding certain outcomes. The wasteland is chaotic, violent, and unpredictable, but not entirely uncontrolled. Somewhere in the background, a man in a trench coat waits for the exact moment he is needed, and then disappears, leaving only the echo of a gunshot and the certainty that he will appear again. Vault-Tec is often remembered as the corporation that promised to save humanity. Its cheerful mascots, bright slogans, and smiling representatives sold the vaults as sanctuaries from nuclear annihilation. To the public, Vault-Tec was the last line of defense against extinction. But Fallout makes one thing abundantly clear. Survival was never the goal. The vaults were not designed to preserve humanity. They were designed to test it. Across the Fallout series, nearly every vault tells the same story. The residents followed the rules, trusted the system, and waited for salvation that never came. What they received instead were controlled environments engineered to break them. Vault-Tec subjected people to psychological torture, social manipulation, biological experimentation, and deliberate scarcity. These were not failures of design, they were the design. The scale of this operation reveals Vault-Tec's true ambition. These experiments required enormous resources, long-term planning, and a certainty that the world would end exactly as predicted. Vault-Tec did not merely prepare for nuclear war, it planned around it. Many vaults were never intended to open. Others were designed to collapse internally long before outside conditions improved. The apocalypse was not a disaster to Vault-Tec. It was a controlled laboratory event. So what was the end game? The most compelling answer is that Vault-Tec was collecting data on human behavior under extreme conditions. How do societies react to isolation, to enforced hierarchy, to constant surveillance, to artificial crises? The vaults simulated hundreds of social structures, each designed to push human psychology to its limit. Vault-Tec wasn't trying to save civilization as it existed, it was trying to redesign it. Some evidence suggests this data was intended for the Enclave, the shadow government that planned to reclaim the world after the war. The Enclave needed models for population control, governance, and obedience. Vault-Tec provided real-world results, paid for with human lives. In this interpretation, the Vault dwellers were never citizens to be saved, but variables in a massive sociological equation. There is also a more disturbing possibility. Several hints across the series imply that the Vault experiments were meant to prepare humanity for off-world colonization. Extreme isolation, artificial ecosystems, genetic bottlenecks, and authoritarian control would all be unavoidable in space habitats. The vaults may have been prototypes, not shelters, but test chambers for a future beyond Earth. If so, Vault-Tec was never trying to save humanity as a species, only a version of it that could survive under absolute control. What makes Vault-Tec uniquely horrifying is its indifference. Unlike raiders or warlords, Vault-Tec does not act out of cruelty or chaos. It acts out of corporate logic. Every atrocity is justified by data. Every death is acceptable if it advances the experiment. The smiling Vault Boy becomes a mask for something far more sinister, a system that values information over human life. Fallout never shows us Vault-Tec's final reckoning. We never see a boardroom of executives celebrating their success or mourning their losses. Instead, we explore the aftermath, the empty vaults, the skeletons in lab coats, the logs of people realizing too late that they were lied to. This absence is intentional. Vault-Tec's endgame doesn't require witnesses. The experiment continues whether anyone is left to observe it or not. In the end, Vault-Tec represents Fallout's harshest critique of power. The world did not end because of chaos or madness alone. It ended because institutions were built that could rationalize extinction as a necessary step forward. Vault-Tec didn't fail to save humanity. It succeeded at exactly what it set out to do. Fallout is filled with mutants, ghouls, and creatures twisted by radiation. But few figures are as quietly unsettling as Harold. He does not fit neatly into any known category of mutation. He is not a super mutant, not a ghoul, and not a scientific experiment gone wrong. Harold is something else entirely, a living relic of the old world whose existence raises questions Fallout never fully answers. Harold first appears in the original Fallout as a companion of Richard Gray, the man who would later become the Master. Both were exposed to the forced evolutionary virus at Mariposa, but while Gray transformed into something godlike and monstrous, Harold changed in a way no one could explain. His skin became gnarled and bark-like, his features warped, yet his mind remained intact. From the very beginning, Harold's mutation defied the rules Fallout would later establish. As the series progresses, Harold does something no other mutated character does. He continues to change. In Fallout 2, he appears older, more plant-like, his body slowly merging with something botanical. By Fallout 3, Harold has become rooted to the ground, fused with the earth in Oasis, his body sprouting branches and leaves. This evolution is not the result of further exposure to radiation or experimentation. It is organic, gradual, and seemingly purposeful. The greatest mystery surrounding Harold is not what he has become, but why. The forced evolutionary virus was designed to improve humanity by forcing rapid, controlled evolution. Yet Harold's transformation follows no known FEV strain. Instead of increased strength or intelligence, Harold gains endurance, longevity, and a symbiotic connection with plant life. He becomes a bridge between human and ecosystem, something Fallout science cannot account for. In Oasis, Harold is worshipped as a god by the tree minders, who believe his continued growth will heal the wasteland. And they may be right. The land around him is fertile, green, and alive, in a world otherwise defined by decay. Harold does not spread destruction or domination, he spreads life. This stands in stark contrast to nearly every other post-war mutation, which exists to exploit, consume, or conquer. Yet Harold himself does not see his condition as a blessing. He is tired. He is in pain. His immortality has become a prison, and his growth has stripped him of agency. He cannot move. He cannot die naturally. His existence raises an uncomfortable ethical question. If someone's life brings hope to the world, but endless suffering to themselves, who gets to decide their fate? The player's choice in Oasis, to end Harold's life, limit his growth, or allow it to continue unchecked, has no clear moral answer. Each option carries consequences, and Fallout refuses to label any of them as correct. This ambiguity reinforces Harold's role not as a miracle or a monster, but as a tragedy shaped by forces beyond his control. Harold's mystery deepens when viewed alongside Fallout's other ancient and cosmic elements. His transformation feels less like mutation and more like integration, as if he is being absorbed into the natural order of the planet itself. While humanity destroys the world through war and industry, Harold becomes something that heals it, not through technology, but through surrender. Ultimately, Harold represents a path Fallout rarely explores. He is not evolution through domination, like the Master, or survival through isolation, like the Vaults. He is evolution through coexistence, and that may be why his story is so unsettling. Harold suggests that humanity's future might not involve control at all, but becoming something smaller, quieter, and rooted. In the end, Harold is not a solution to the wasteland, nor a warning to avoid it. He is a reminder that the world is still changing, still adapting, and still capable of producing things no one planned. Long after the bombs fell, something new began to grow, and it grew from a man who never asked to be part of the future. Fallout 4 presents a world of clear lines, or at least lines that seem clear. There are humans, there are synths, there are ghouls, and there are super mutants. But the game's central figure, the sole survivor, occupies a space that is never fully defined. On the surface, the sole survivor is a human cryogenically frozen in Vault 111. Yet the game leaves subtle hints suggesting the possibility that this iconic protagonist may be more than human. Is the sole survivor actually a synth? Fallout never answers definitively, and that ambiguity is intentional. The story begins with the sole survivor being placed in a cryogenic vault, preserved for over 200 years. Upon awakening, they emerge into a world ravaged by nuclear war. Cryogenic freezing is already a form of suspended animation that makes the character physically distinct from everyone else. But the game introduces elements that blur the line between human and synthetic. For example, the Institute, responsible for creating advanced synths, has access to revolutionary technology capable of perfecting human replicas. They have created synths so convincing that even their creators sometimes cannot tell them apart from real humans. Throughout Fallout 4, the player encounters synths who struggle with identity in ways the sole survivor mirrors. Some synths develop emotions, make moral choices, or question their purpose. Similarly, the sole survivor's dialogue and actions are completely player-driven, yet they reflect the same ambiguity. Are they acting as a human, or are they following a set of pre-programmed ethical parameters imposed by an unseen intelligence? The possibility is reinforced in subtle environmental cues and dialogue options. Several characters react strangely to the sole survivor in ways that suggest they sense something unusual beneath the surface. The Institute itself complicates the question. It repeatedly calls the player special, treats them with an unusual mix of reverence and expectation, and, in some endings, offers to integrate them into the organization fully. If the sole survivor were a synth, this would explain their unique resistance to cryogenic aging and their seemingly limitless potential to adapt to the world. Some players have speculated that the Institute may have experimented with creating a human-synth hybrid long before the events of the game, using Vault-111 as a controlled test. Yet the game also provides evidence against the theory. The sole survivor has clear human relationships, parental instincts, and emotional depth that seems natural rather than artificially programmed. They can grieve, love, or rage in ways that feel unreplicable by machines. The lore explicitly establishes the sole survivor as a human, the biological parent of Sean, and the chosen inheritor of Vault-111's legacy. In every documented sense, they are the player's avatar for humanity, not technology. The ambiguity of the sole survivor's identity may be the point. Fallout 4 repeatedly asks the player to question what makes someone human. Is it biology, consciousness, emotion, or choice? Synths challenge that definition by being capable of all four. By creating a protagonist who could theoretically fall into either category, the game forces players to confront the moral and philosophical boundaries between man and machine. The identity of the sole survivor becomes less about fact and more about perspective. They are what the player decides them to be. In a sense, the question mirrors broader themes in Fallout. Humanity survives the apocalypse not by virtue of being purely human, but by adapting, evolving, and sometimes becoming something more. Whether the sole survivor is human, synth, or some combination of both, the character embodies this truth. They exist in a world where technology, mutation, and ideology constantly blur the lines, and they are defined as much by choice as by biology. Ultimately, Fallout 4 never answers definitively whether the sole survivor is a synth, and perhaps that is the point. By leaving the question unresolved, the game invites the player to explore the essence of identity, the nature of humanity, and the consequences of a world in which the line between man and machine has already begun to fade. In the wasteland, certainty is a luxury. Ambiguity and the questions it provokes is what truly survives. And that's just scratching the surface of the Fallout universe. From the eerie whispers in Dunwitch to the secrets Vault-Tec tried to bury, the wasteland is full of questions, and almost no answers. Which of these mysteries fascinates you the most? Or did I miss a favorite you've stumbled across in the wastes? Let me know in the comments below. I love reading your theories. If you enjoyed diving into Fallout secrets, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next journey into the strange and unexplained corners of the wasteland. And remember, in Fallout, the truth isn't always buried in the ruins. Sometimes it's hiding in plain sight. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.